Hey everyone, we're going to be taking a look at Ridgid's R8653 cordless brushless 7 1/4 inch circular saw. So this thing uses the standard Ridgid 18 volt platform, all Ridgid batteries, they're 18 volts fit with it, and it's a really good design. It's got plenty of power, and we'll get into more of that, how much it cuts per battery charge, and all that. Let's take a closer look first. Alright, where to start with this guy? First of all, it takes up to 5 amp hour battery packs. It's got a little bit of room for more because the motor sticks down a little bit lower right here. But right now 5 amp hour seems to be the way to go. I've been running it with the 2 amp hour some too, and it seems to have plenty of power with that as well. So you've got the GEN5X Brushless stamped on the side of here just in case you forget. On the top here, on the handle, you've got a thumb safety and then a trigger that you can't pull unless you have that thumb safety depressed. It's an ambidextrous thumb safety. And then back here farther on the handle, there's another little trigger here. And that's actually for the LED light on the front. So if I depress this trigger, you can see this big honking LED lights up your cut line. And it does a pretty good job of it. So I really like you don't have to turn on the saw and turn the blade on to get some cut line visibility. You can start out, and once you're holding that handle, the light comes on naturally, and then from there you can plan your cut. So also on the top here, you've got an integral blade wrench. This little hex key pops right out, and your blade detent is right here for locking the blade in place. Make sure you got the battery out, and just gotta find that. There's that spot right there. There it is. So pretty easy to take the thing apart, take the blade off, put a new one in. Standard circular saw features right there. On this side, you got the cut depth, and I like the high vis white markings here. And you got a pretty good indicator as well. So it goes from 0 to 2 1/4. Pretty standard for a 7 1/4 inch saw. And then you've got up to a 56-degree bevel. So you just take this little toggle and then bevel away, and you can actually hear it. It's hitting some detents. They're not positive stops. It doesn't sit there and lock, but you can see there's detents at common angles. So as you rotate through those, you hit them. So we're looking at 15 degrees. 22.5, 30, 45, and then up at the 56 you got one too. Just pop it back down to 0 and lock it down. These levers right here, both for the blade depth and the angle, are both indexable. So that means this little fastener, if you get this bottomed out against the shoe here and you can't tighten it anymore, you can actually pop this little thing out with a torque screw and rotate it one and then put it back so you can actually lock it down. So if it slips over time, you do have the option of making sure you can still get all the adjustments tight. On this side, we've also got spots to mount accessory fence or something like that, a straight line cutting jig. And this one actually goes through, and it's got if you have a bar to stick across there, it's got the spot for a set screw and that. Of course, on this side you got a handle, so you can grip with both hands while you're cutting, and then you've got a dust blower that takes a little bit of air from the motor and blows it across your cut line to keep your cut line visible. It works pretty well. Got some MDF with this, didn't have any issues with it moving the dust out of the way and seeing where I was cutting. And you may have noticed this is a blade right saw. So, there's the never-ending debate over whether blade left or blade right is better. I'm right-handed and I prefer blade right just because you got your shoe. If you're cutting off on this side, you got your shoe on your workpiece and you're not resting the saw over the part that's getting cut off. You got a little more stability that way. I also don't like getting wood chips up on my face while I'm cutting. So having the blade on that side and not having to reach across the blade just gives me warm fuzzies. So you sacrifice a little bit in visibility. I can usually see down in here where I'm cutting, You can rely on the kerf indicators. I prefer to look at where the blade actually is. It's just a personal preference. So unfortunately at this time, Ridgid does not make a blade left version of this saw. So I think their 6.5-inch saw is blade left. So if you're in the blade left camp, you might want to look at that one. But this one offers a little bit more cut depth, and it's looking like it might be a quarter replacement for me. Enough talk, let's get to cutting. Alright, to test rip cutting ability, I've got some MDF right here. It's just scrap, and it's I think each of these are 5/8 inch thick, so it's 1 1/4 inch MDF. We're going to cut through it, do 2 rips through a 4-foot section. Alright, I'm going to put a mask on because it's dusty. Alright, so there it is. It did cut pretty easily. It bogged down a little bit at the end when I had the end pinching. I wasn't supporting the cutoff here, but it wasn't a big deal. It ate right through it. So 2 pieces at once. Normally, you're not even going to have that much of an issue if you're just doing 1 cut. Solid, pretty heavy duty MDF. So there it is. Alright, so we've got it here with a 2 amp hour battery installed on the back here. See how well this thing cuts on a 2x4. Alright, it just goes right through it. I didn't really feel it bogging down. I really can't tell much of a difference from when I'm cutting with my circular saw, my corded circular saw. So I'll make a few more and I'll see if I can give it a little bit of a challenge here and try to cut a little bit faster. And see, I jammed it in there pretty fast and it bound up a little bit, but really I don't cut like that in real life. So that was a little bit better. I was still being really aggressive on pushing Wasn't even a cutoff left on that one. Alright guys, I am halfway through my battery on this. You can see, still got 2 bars left on the 2 amp hour. I feel the bottom of this thing, it's actually getting really hot, and in the middle of this last cut, the saw just stopped. So I think I hit thermal protection because I've still got battery life left. The motor itself, it's a little bit warm, but I mean, not warmer than I'd really expect. I think it's the battery here because, yeah, I'm holding it. It's pretty warm. I mean, not warm enough. I gotta get my hands off of it. But it's you take this outside in the winter, it'll definitely keep your hands from getting numb. So I'll take a few minutes and wait until that cools down and finish out this 2x4. Got quite a pile already. Cut-offs. You can see that's what I've done so far, and I'll count them when I'm done and tell you how many I actually got. But yeah, so for right now, just got to sit and wait. And this is straight, cut after cut after cut. It's not, measuring, cutting, doing something with that workpiece and then coming back and cutting another one. This is just cut, cut, cut. So that's not really a real-world scenario, but it did overheat on just half the 2 amp hour battery. Alright, so I did some investigating while I was waiting, measured the temperature here. I ended up with 117 degrees on the bottom of this battery pack, and it lists its charge, and I'm assuming operating range for temperatures up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is right at 120 degrees internally. It's probably a little bit above that even. So it's the battery's thermal protection that kicked in, not the saw's, because I took my 5 amp hour battery and popped it right in here, and it's all ready to run. So the issue here that we ran into is thermal protection on your compact battery. To remedy that, if you're looking at this saw, you might want to get a 4 amp hour pack or a 5 amp hour pack, because the way these things work, this has one set of cells. They're usually 3.6 volt cells in series, and this one has 2 sets of those in parallel. So this one can deliver more current without overheating, because it's not asking as much from each individual cell as this one is. So I really doubt I'd have the same issues if I was running a 5 amp hour on the endurance test. I'm lazy and I didn't feel like running an entire 5 amp hour empty, because the 2 amp hour is doing quite a bit of work by itself on its own. So I think I'd be pretty tired after just cranking away and making cut after cut with a 5 amp hour. So we'll continue to let this one cool down, and I'll give you an estimate on how long it took to be operable again, and then I'll finish out the endurance test. Alright guys, runtime test is over. I got 129 cuts on a 2x4 with the 2 amp hour battery. So if you're looking at a 4 amp hour battery, you're going to be looking at, what, I can't math, 258, and then 25% more of that, so around 300 cuts from a 5 amp hour battery on this thing. That's pretty impressive, and I think it's definitely holding its own in the cordless power saw arena, especially for the full-size 7 1/4 inch blade. So it's got a ton of power. I also did I had some 8/4 walnut that had a checked end I decided to cut off, and it powered through this pretty well. It got a little bit hung up when these 2 pieces, the check in the end of the wood was, I think it sprung out a little bit when I was cutting it. So it got a little bit hung up on that, but I backed it off and ran it back through. So it can do, 2 inch thick hardwood without too much trouble. I was pretty impressed by that. And you saw the rip test cut as well with MDF. That was 1 1/4 inch thick MDF, a 4-foot cut on that, ate right through it. So really, I mean, I've got my old Ridgid R32021 corded 15 amp circular saw. I think I might be putting this one on Craigslist. For the limited use that I have of a circular saw, I mean, I've got a miter saw, band saw, and table saw. I don't get a ton of use out of circular saws, and the battery life for this thing is amazing. 300 cuts with a 5 amp hour battery, and then another 130 with a 2 amp hour battery. That's what I've got. So I can cut for quite a while before I'm going to need to recharge those. So definitely for a homeowner, I think this is a corded replacement. It's definitely got my thumbs up on that. So goodbye, old friend. It's been a good run, but I think this new one is going to get the job done. Plus, if you look at the form factor on these, the corded circular saw is a lot wider with the motor. You've got the really compact brushless motor with the GEN5X brushless version. Overall, they feel like they weigh about the same with a 2 amp hour battery. With a 5 amp hour battery, this one might be a little bit heavier. And it's got a little bit longer of a footprint because of that battery. But overall, it's a pretty, apples to apples comparison, I think, for cut capacity. Well, definitely for cut capacity, and for cut power, it's pretty close. There's very little cuts. Maybe on this hardwood a little bit. It was, I could tell the difference between the corded and the cordless. But for regular 2x4 cuts, I can't really tell a difference. So if you're in the Ridgid platform already, I think this is a must-buy if you need a circular saw. If you're looking at getting into Ridgid's 18-volt line, this is a strong contender for convincing you to get in there too, I think. It runs $140 currently, bare tool, and I think they offered it in a kit previously, and it's just now coming out as a bare tool. So if you're getting into it, keep in mind you're going to have to buy batteries and a charger as well, in addition to the saw, because I don't think they currently offer it in a kit, just by itself. So yeah, this is a definite thumbs up for me. I think it's a great tool. It's got great runtime. It's got great power. You can't go wrong with it. So hopefully this review was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments section below. And once again, don't forget to subscribe.